The work continues, only this time on the left hand side of the vehicle. I've just finished the repair section for the top here. This piece, just tucked it in place as I did on the other side. Still oversized on the top. I'll trim that when I've finally welded it in place. This I've cut the most of the repair section off, so I won't need it all. I haven't finalised it yet. I'm just got that clamped in place. That's roughly its position, and I was waiting until I do get this inner guard piece in place. But before that, I've had to make an end plate, which I've done there. Just fitting that, it's not quite right yet. Once again, everything's a bit oversized. I trim that off later, but it's getting in there. It's a little bit fiddly to fit just around this bottom end here, so at least I've got a reference on the other side now as to how I did this, so that's good. So it's coming in together. As soon as I've got that in place, then I'll look at this inner guard. To do that, I'm going to remove some of this outer panel. Okay, it's rusted a bit at the top end. It's got an enormous hole there from a dent puller, so I'll probably cut it to about there. I need to cut it down a bit because the top end of it's rusted out and I can't see what's on the inside of this at the moment, so I need to cut that so I can repair this. Anyway, first steps first, get this end plate fitted, then I've got something to run this inner guard piece back into. And I'm going to do it like I did on the other side. Now, I got some feedback on the E Type forum as to how this was done originally. I probably won't do it that way. I'll do it the same way I did on the other side, and the reason for that, as I explained on the other side, is that I've put repair sections in here already when I was doing the B-pillar, so it's what I've got here is not necessarily the way it was anyway. So anyway, I'll probably do it the other way I've done it on the other side. Took a while to figure that out, so it seems to be just as workable as the original way they put them together. Now this panel here is the rear wing repair. And this is for the right hand side of the car. This is a commercial product. It's not bad. The form seems fairly straightforward, to the extent that I decided I'll see if I can make the repair section for the left hand side of the car. So that's what this large piece of formwork is. I'll step back a bit further. Quite large, quite solid. So what I'm doing is just forming the edges. This is the edge around the wheel arch. Now once again I've got everything oversized, and I've just been knocking this down. It seems to be coming up all right. So what I'll do is that I'll see how this goes. I'll form this curve first around the actual wheel arch, and then in terms of these two folds, this is the one that goes onto the body, where it connects to the body, actually where it connects to the sill. That's that would fold straight down, and this one here is round in the door cavity. But I'm not going to fold those yet, so what I'll do is fold this, and once I've got this correctly positioned, then I'll mark where these folds are. Now, once again, I've made these oversized. The sections that are on the commercial panel, put that there, they're only not very wide flanges at all, particularly the one there, which is this one here that goes onto the sill. But once again, I've made them oversized because I might have to adjust it when I put this up for fitting. But anyway, at this stage it seems to be working all right. Spent a lot of time making the form. It's obviously a lot more substantial because of the amount that I'm folding. There's quite a lot to do, but anyway, it seems to be going all right, and I'll keep going and I'll show you when it's finished. Now, the panel came up all right. The only problem was I made the wrong side. This is the side that I already had the repair section for. So just a word of warning, when you put things in hammer form, make sure you're bending them in the right direction. The end result though, it's come out quite well. So I'm quite happy with it. The curve here is quite well formed. I could finish that off more, but I'm not worrying about that at this stage. Same as I'm not worried about folding these on. This is where the sill joins. I'll do that when I actually work on the repairs to the inner arch. Having said that, this is the one I've repaired. This is the one inner arch I'm working on. So this is on the left hand side of the vehicle. As you can see, it's the reverse. So be careful when you hammer form. Anyway, I've got a spare now. So this worked out fine. The confusing bit is that because I'm working on the cars upside down, I sometimes get confused with the left and the right hand. Because I'm actually sitting on the left hand side of the vehicle because it's inverted. Anyway, this is the one the arch I'm working on at the moment. I've just dropped this against the remains of the existing arch. That fits quite fine. This will fold very close to the line that I had on there, so that's okay as well. So what I'm now able to do is to start pulling the existing arch apart. Now the existing panel on this side of the car is rusted out here, and it's got some damage in here and damage actually under the seam here. So what I'll do now is I'll actually start cutting the existing panel back, and then I'll use this to position the corner piece, that little boomerang piece in the corner. So anyway, hammer forming works well. This form worked quite well, rather large form, but anyway, it is all fine. So I'll go and continue on the repairs. I've started cutting out the outer panel. I've taken it down that far so far. I'm hoping I won't have to take it any further than that. The inner guard here is, apart from surface rust, the damage is really up near the top. So I'll probably cut that around about where my fingernail is. And I'll be able to weld that because I've cut this outer panel down a little bit. Now this outer panel didn't need to go down that far, but I just wanted enough access so I can run a weld through there on the inside. Now one hole there, probably very badly pitted up in there. so the cut will go along there and along the bottom of the bumper bar mount, so I can easily access the weld there. Now, someone did ask me, how do you get inside the wing here to remove rust and also to put some rust preventative in? The answer to that is with some difficulty, but what you can find is when you cut this panel down and also remove that, you can see I've got a block in there, and very carefully I've put that block in to pull this panel out. Now, it's not stretching the metal. If I pull it too much further, it may do, and I certainly don't want to do that. So you can get your fingers down into there, and the rust, the surface rust on the inside of this only goes down to about there. It doesn't go down very far at all. So I can actually get into there and with sandpaper rub in through there. Now if I need to get further down, let's try and find my file. What you can do, you can wrap some paper around the file, get the file down there, and you can get a fair way down. But I really don't need to go down that far because the rust isn't that far down. There's also access, there's on the inside there's a couple of access holes where you can get, or one access hole in particular, where you can get your hand in and up into this area, so you can sand that. In terms of preserving it, killing the rust, you can use a rust killing compound on a pad, and once again you get your hand inside and do that. So anyway, not easy, but it can be done. Now I've just been cleaning this up with a wire brush to determine where I can cut. There's a bit of damage there, that's a dent in the panel. I'll straighten that. That's associated with this dent here, I assume. These holes, the dent repair holes, I'll weld all of those to there at least, and to that one. This one I'll weld up, unless I decide to cut this further down. I don't know whether I'll do that yet. There's a little bit of denting there still. I'll see if I can panel beat that out, and so I can get something behind that and see if I can get that smoother. These holes here, they'll go very close to the repair section. Now I'm going to do a stepped lap weld in there. That's what's been suggested, certainly by Monocoque. Chuck suggests that to ensure that you don't warp the panel too much, and it provides a bit of added strength with the lap in there. This weld here might end up as a plug weld into that lap. This one's a bit close. So anyway, I'll see whether I need to fill those or whether they become part of the plug welds into the repair section. Going reasonably straightforward. I'll have to cut this back into here when I put the repair section in. So all in all, it's a bit easier than the other side, but I'll see how I go. There are 12 holes in this wing here. These are the dent repair holes. The ones I'm definitely going to weld up are these ones along here, and say up to here at least. Definitely that one. and probably that one. The other ones I'm not sure of. I may decide to use those as plug weld holes once I finalise how far I'm cutting down the inner guard. Now I've been progressively cutting this out. Now I've got it down to that level. The metal is all solid. I'm not sure whether I'll take it any further. So I decided before I make that final decision, I'll weld these ones up at least and then straighten this panel out. And the reason I don't know how far I'm going down is that I don't know how much of this panel I'm taking off yet. There are a few dents I need to take out, so I'd rather start to repair this, take any dents out that I need to take out, and then make a final decision on how far this wing gets cut back. At the moment the cut is not that large, it's actually quite small, but I may need to take it a bit further. But anyway, to start with, I intend to TIG weld most of these. This one here is a bit big. I may end up doing a MIG weld for that, and perhaps for that if I leave that. So anyway, I'll start with the TIG welds first. I've started welding up the repair holes. The process I use is to drill there's the original. I drill it out and then very carefully, see if I can do this on my finger, I try and push that into the hole so that the size of the hole at the moment is a bit undersized, so I've got to go with a small rat tail file that down, fit that in place, and then I've been TIGging the little metal disc into the panel. Yeah, worked okay there. I blew through on this one, mainly because I had the amperage set too high, so I've wound the amperage down, and although I don't have a pulse set up on my TIG welder, I basically try and pulse it, so not concentrating too much heat for too long. That seems to be working quite fine. This one here, I'll probably MIG that up. I'll think about it, but be easier to MIG that, just with a small copper backing plate behind it. These ones I'll continue, and I'll continue using the TIG, and hopefully I won't blow any more. I ended up using TIG on all of the 12 holes. The ones up here, I've worked out that they'd be just outside the lap joint, so I've done them all. Had 3 blow-throughs and had to patch it up with a MIG, but other than that, wasn't too bad. It's a little bit of ripple in there. I can't quite get rid of that. I might do a little bit more work on that. It's very fine. I can just feel it with the fingers. It will fill, I've got no doubt, and this area is going to have to be filled anyway, where this joint is. Only very thin layer, but anyway, I'll look at that before I weld this new section in. I've finalised, this is where the cut will be for the wing panel along here. I've just got to even up the metal there. It's just a little bit distorted. It's not a clean cut. I'll do that with a file, that's not a problem. I'll do that next, and then I'll look at finalising the weld for this panel. So it's all going along quite well. I've just finished tacking in the repair section on the inner guard. it's a lot harder, well, it's been a lot harder to do this side than the other, mainly because I didn't really need much of a repair up on this front end. This was actually quite hard to fit, probably because it's up close to the curve itself. It's a bit hard to actually line the two panels up. But anyway, I finally got it tacked in. So what I'll now be doing is working on the little corner piece here. So I've cut the rust out, but I need to look at where I'll make the final repair. So I'm just working on that now. So hopefully that won't take as long. Only problem is access to the weld. It's going to be a little bit difficult because the cut is going to be behind that panel, so I'll probably have to weld from the inside. So it'll be a little bit awkward, but I'll see how I go. Now I'm working on fitting this piece here. It's very fiddly to actually do. You're trying to get it aligned up the top here and also the bottom. Well, I can now do that, that's not a problem. But working out exactly where you're making the cut along here, and basically I want to cut it to that shape. That's the difficult bit. So I have to get this almost a perfect fit first. I'm just doing it with one hand again. I'll clamp this up into there along the back piece. I'll clamp it along here, along this edge, and then gradually cut this back. Now, I'm not tempted to just clamp it, scribe that, and cut it to that line. I'll cut it oversized, just to make sure that I get the fit correctly. The problem with trying to cut it exactly the first time is that you get one chance. If you miss, then you end up with a gap, and I think I've said before, with a TIG weld you don't want too much of a gap. So basically I reduce the overlap piece by piece until I'm getting it close, and then I'll probably use a file to get the shape. So I'm now about to reduce the amount of metal I've got left on this and get it down to a filing point. All the inner guard repairs have now been completed. I've only tacked them in. This one was the last one to go in. It's always the most difficult because of the shape around here. This curve fits the panel on the rear. The original fit up in this end was a problem on the original design, because a lot of the cars didn't actually have the flange so it fitted against the outer panel. This was sitting back a bit, probably about at least 5 mils, so just to exaggerate it a bit, the panel sort of sat back a bit like that, so there was a gap between the flange on the outer panel and the inner panel, so it was sort of a gap at the top end. Now I've flared that out so that now meets the panel, so this is a nice neat fit all the way around. So this takes a little bit of effort, but it can be done. So what I'm now about to do is just to clean up the welds, knock off the tops of these. These are MIG welds, just to tack it in place. I'll just knock off the tops of those, and then I'll start to TIG the repairs into position. So I'll do that next before I start working on this the repairs to the rear panel here. I've now finished welding that repair in. The TIG worked well all the way along, so that was no problem. I actually had more problem with the TIG on the inner panel where I blew through a couple of times, but anyway, all overcome. So this is all now complete. What I need to be working on now is this corner panel here. I've got to make repairs to that. I took the floor panel out. It wasn't quite fitting on this end. The accident damage to the rear that I had pushed this panel in just a little bit, probably about 3/16. So I've just had to straighten it. I had to use a bit of heat up the top there to straighten it. The reason being is that the petrol tank mount was stiffening it up and making it hard to straighten. So anyway, a little bit of heat solved that problem. So that's now straight. So the boot on this corner will fit a lot better. And the importance of that is that if it was too cramped, which this was, it was bowing the floor a little bit more than it should have been. So anyway, that's now fixed. So I'll just put the floor back in, because I needed the floor to finish this panel here off. It's rusted in a few places, so I've got to have reference points to where it meets the body. So now they should be okay.